Hey, what's up, friends? How you doing? Your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. This is the third in a series of, I don't know, 3, 4. How many do you want? I'll keep bringing it. Well, we've been talking about areas of concentration, the PMP exam, and I realize that lots of folks are finding this useful. So we've talked so far about process group concentration, the major one, and we've talked about knowledge area concentration. Integration is boss. We've talked about the importance of nailing down integration. It's a massive area. So after integration and executing are thoroughly nailed down, it actually forms a T. T for terrific? I don't know. But the next thing is to hone in on more low-hanging fruit across the process groups. Initiating is definitely a massive one. Closing, definitely a massive one as well. I would suggest that with these 3 processes, you proceed with caution because that is 20% of your exam. Initiating and closing, there's some hidden things. If you go to the PMP guide page where the closed project or phase process is talked about, there is a lot of mileage you can get out of that page. So much mileage. It covers everything that you need to know regarding project closure. And I mean, it goes in, of course, it's the PMP guide, so it goes into a lot of detail. But that said, let me see if I can just call out a few of the big ticket things that are here. Big ticket things that are in this book. Okay. So, I'm going to have company in a few minutes, so let me see if I can get this done really quick. So it talks about all the actions necessary to close out a project or phase. All the actions necessary, and I mean it goes into excruciating detail. Everything that you need to close out a project or phase. See that? So let me hope that I don't get a lot of noise because I'm trying to minimize the noise. So all of the actions necessary to close out a project or phase, all the activities related to completion of the contractual agreements applicable to the project or phase, and then activities needed to collect project phase records. It's big, page 123. Let's just leave it at that. You need to read that page 123 because I'm quite sure there's a lot of stuff that you may not be aware of on that page. Okay, take a look at that page, hone in on it. And that pretty much is it for closing. But for initiating, all of the tiny little nicks and knacks in your stakeholder register and in your project charter, do you know all of them? So I can't read them to you, but what I will ask you to do is, with a fine-tooth comb, again, you know I'm a stickler for detail, go through it with your highlighter, your pencil, your pen, whatever, but I want you to itemize. I want you to look for 20 things that are highly likely to be in a project charter. Can you find those 20 things? Look for them, I challenge you. Also for the stakeholder register, can you find there, I would say about 15 things that should be in your stakeholder register? 15 pieces of information that will enable you understand stakeholders better. Can you find that? You need to find those pieces of information, okay? 20 things for the charter, 15 things for your stakeholder register. And if you can do that, you will highly likely do excellently in these, because the questions from these areas are going to be more focused on what is in this document. What does this document do for you? And in order to know what it really does, you're going to have to comb through the PMP guide. You see, a lot of books, a lot of study guides, they don't cover every single item that is in this document called a project charter. And that's why I always recommend go to the mothership. You want to look at the mothership, and that will guide you as far as what should be in the charter or in the stakeholder register. Okay. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the next big area, the monitoring and controlling process group. So we've talked about executing, and we've talked about initiating and closing, which collectively is 20%, which is big because there are only 3 processes. But if you look at monitoring and controlling, that is where you get the next big bang for your buck. And each one of those, there are 12, and out of the 12, there are 2 in integration. See why integration is so big? There are 2 in scope. See, that's another way of looking at it. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. 8% among 2 knowledge areas. That's big. And then if you look down, all the others, kind of like 1 per knowledge area, 1 controlling process per knowledge area. It all adds up, So in the next video that I do, I will be covering the details in the monitoring and controlling process group. I mean, this was easy. 3 processes. There's not really that much to talk about. I did skip over a few key things. So your final report in closing, very important. Your final product, service, or result transition, also very important. And your regression analysis that you're doing in closing. Read that. Try to understand, what are we really doing? Why are we doing a regression analysis here, in closing? And let me read the top of the waves for you before I hop out here. So regression analysis is under data analysis, okay? Regression analysis is under data analysis. And let me just read it really quick because I know people will probably fly over this thing, those who are PMBOK averse. It says, this technique analyzes the interrelationships between different project variables that contributed to the project outcomes to improve performance on future projects. So you want to know those variables which contributed to your success, and you want to make sure you focus on those in a future project. All right? I hope that helps you, give you some ideas about how to tackle initiating and closing. When I come back in video number 4, we're going to be talking about monitoring and controlling. All right. Speak to you later.